Good Sunday morning, Northeast Ohio, and a very happy Easter and Passover to all of you who are celebrating. It was a holiday kicked off Thursday by the dropping of the Mueller report. 448 pages in all, complete with plenty of Cleveland connections. The very hiring of Mueller was a result of the recusal of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who stepped aside in part because of a meeting in Cleveland with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Here are a few of the other local ties. During the spring and summer of 2016, many of the players in the Mueller report spent time in Cleveland ahead of the Republican National Convention.
Hey, Mr. Manafort.
Paul Manafort, most prominent among them, but by his side outside of the Halley building that day was his business partner and Trump campaign deputy, Rick Gates. Gates would later be convicted of lying to federal investigators and serve as their star witness against Manafort. Also present, the man who would become White House counsel, Don McGahn, President Trump reportedly would later blame for the Mueller probe, and who the report states the president ordered to fire Robert Mueller and then later asked him to deny it to the press, which he refused to do. A section of the report also looks at the actions around the RNC, which included several meetings between Trump team members and Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, but also the actions of the Platform Committee. Wording of a plank that was critical of Russia in regards to their actions in Ukraine was softened. The delegate who authored the plank told investigators that Trump's senior advisor, J.D. Gordon, wanted the change and that he had discussed it with Trump, a claim Gordon would deny. The delegate refused to budge, but in the end, the wording was eventually softened.
Where did it come from then? Because everybody on the Platform Committee had said it came from the Trump campaign. If not you, who?
No, it absolutely did not come from the Trump campaign. I don't know who everybody is, but I guarantee you
so
there's
nobody from the Trump
Committee.
campaign wanted that change in the platform?
No one. Zero.
The Mueller report cleared the Trump team of collusion, but kicked the can to Congress on the question of obstruction. Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur telling me she's keeping an open mind.
I have not reached the conclusion that there has not been obstruction of justice. That is to be discovered, and that is our job. I think we've heard a lot of clutter from other places, but this isn't something partisan. This is something we do for the Republic.
Democrat dilemma. How aggressively do you pursue this heading into an election year, knowing your success last year at the polls was tied not to the Mueller probe, but to kitchen table issues like jobs, economy, health care? On the latter subject, the Trump administration has made it clear they would like to see the Affordable Care Act overturned. Some Democrats running for president, on the other hand, would like to see it taken even further. Both extremes could have an impact on Cleveland's growing health care industry. When then Governor John Kosich wanted to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act in 2013, he issued a warning.
You want to create chaos? Don't pass this and see what happens to the Cleveland Clinic and University Hospital up there in Cleveland.
Well, it did pass. And what happened was more than 700,000 Ohioans were added to the rolls of the insured, and the clinic in UH experienced very strong growth. As a clinic in that time added 8,600 jobs, according to state figures, UH around 6,600.
Well, there's no question that our hospitals rely on these dollars that come into the community for the Medicaid expansion, people having insurance, and it certainly matters for jobs, it matters for wages.
Have the courts throw out the Affordable Care Act, as the administration stated they would like to see done, and that growth is jeopardized. On the flip side, go with a single-payer health care for all system, as proposed by some Democratic presidential hopefuls, and that too could jeopardize what has been built in Cleveland. Brown said the answer to protecting Cleveland's healthcare economic engine, along with patient protections, is compromise. Keep the ACA, but allow for people, if they choose to buy into Medicare at a younger age.
So that if you're 58 years old and you lose your job, you have an opportunity to sign up early for Medicare. You pay a little bit more, but at least you have reliable, consistent insurance with strong consumer protections.
Well, as we mentioned, this is Easter Sunday, and as part of Easter Vigil Masses that took place around the world last night, the church, in a sense, blessed fire with the blessing of the Paschal candle. Fire and faith are interlinked throughout history, Greek mythology, the Bible. Fire can be purifying and life-giving, but as we saw this week in Notre Dame, it can also be devastatingly destructive. For centuries, cathedrals were built as the most special places of worship, a house of God that inspired the greatest of all and all who would visit, making them feel small in the presence of the God they worship. Few made people feel smaller than Notre Dame.
It was just deeply sad. Almost sad without any other words.
The devastation of Notre Dame occurred during Holy Week is not lost on Cleveland Bishop Nelson Perez. After all, no week in the Christian calendar carries more fully the dual messages of remembrance and resurrection.
And then the story continued to unfold, right? People started gathering and kneeling and praying and singing. If that cathedral was engulfed in water, it was also engulfed by people's love and by people's faith.
The confluence of faith and fire is something that has been on display throughout the history of religion. This week we saw how it could both destroy and offer hope.
I saw an image, and it was devotional candles that remained lit, right? That big fire was roaring up there, and those little devotional candles were lit. It was a powerful image that said to me, well, part of the building was destroyed. It didn't destroy the church, though.
With Democracy 2019, I'm John Kosich. Enjoy your Sunday.